Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Monday, the 15th of July. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning by Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Yeah, going well, Derek. Enjoyed watching the game last night, as I'm sure everyone else did, and no shortage of Rangers talking points coming into this week, is there?
Absolutely not. Plenty to get our teeth stuck into. Yeah, I watched the game myself last night. Spain deserved winners, just a class above England at the end of the day. I thought the comeback might be on when Cole Palmer equalised, but it wasn't to be. Spain I thought they were superb. They should have won by more, in all honesty. But well done to Spain last night, and commiserations if you were backing Gareth Southgate's men as well. But let's move on to the Rangers stuff. Before we do that, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors as ever, MPH Boilers. If your boiler is on the blink, folks, then do give these guys a call. The family-owned, award-winning business covering all of mainland Scotland, and they've got those wonderful Viessmann boilers on offer. The all-important link is in the description below. And you can see the ticker as well. We're sort of driving this. We've got a WhatsApp group as well, folks. Not many people were aware of that, but there is a link in the description as well. If you want to click on that, you can follow all the latest Rangers news via WhatsApp. I don't know that many of you use that medium. Go and join us on there. Right, lots to discuss from the manager over the weekend. Joshua, of course, there was a game that you and Chris covered against Ajax. Rangers losing narrowly on Saturday. The team headed back to Scotland yesterday ahead, getting geared up for the match against Manchester United this coming weekend. But it's fair to say the manager's comments on transfers have maybe sent alarm bells ringing amongst many. What I'm going to do is we've got a couple of clips we're going to play during the course of the show. First of all, from the manager on transfers, then we'll play what he had to say on the futures of James Tavernier and Connor Goldson. So we'll play Clement on transfers first of all, then we'll discuss the takeaways from that. Here he is.
Your transfer plans are dependent to some degree on players leaving. You're able to raise some funds. You need to get players out before you can spend.
That's the reality. Mm-hmm. That's the reality that the board told me a few months ago. That I know, that the recruitment team knows also. So that's the reality of the club. That's the case.
That was the reality when you took the job. You came in with your eyes open to this fact that this is a club that's not got piles of money sitting in the bank.
No, I had other expectations when I came in, I have to say, in October, but I know the reality now, and I'm very motivated to build the club and to help in that. And it's focusing not only on the short term but also on the longer term. If I would only look at the short term, I would only get experienced players in who can do the job directly, and to look only at the first month of the season. But I think mistakes of that's been made too much in the past, and at the end you don't reach your goal. So you need to have another philosophy, and that's what we are doing all together now. So it's not only me, it's not only recruitment team, it's all together with the board. So we're in constant communication about that.
So there you go, the manager. Apologies for the trolley getting wheeled past there at the start of that in the hotel. It was Andy Newport asking the questions that Chris was alongside two other journalists there asking Philip Clement the questions. I got to say, Joshua, the part they said there that it wasn't aware that they need to sell before they can buy when he came in October is a tad worrying, I've got to say. Yes. What's going on here, do you reckon?
Yeah, I guess that's the line you take away from it, isn't it? And actually hearing, obviously, you read the words first. You or I wasn't there. It was Chris that was out there doing these interviews. And then when you see the video, it kind of does bring to light, I guess, that reality. I think, in a way, Derek, some people will not like to hear that, but we've discussed over the last couple of weeks that Rangers aren't in a good situation at the moment, right? They could have a really good transfer window and they could go and start the season well, and that might change. But as things stand, with the stadium fiasco, with the state of the squad and the work that needs to be done, with the amount of players they need to try and move on, both financially, but also just in terms of squad size, this is not a good situation to be in. And people want to, I guess, be told that up front and be told the reality. I think it's probably also an element of managers have to cover their backs as well. But you're right, that contrast between the two answers, that he wasn't fully aware of that, or circumstances have changed since October up until now, is I think what took people's attention, and understandably so, because everyone knows, as we keep coming back to, that we've seen this movie before with different variations of this squad, and that is why people believe that, look, if there's not serious change, if more quality doesn't come in, or there's not a big change in what has been happening, if you don't change the input, the output is not gonna change either. So I think pretty stark comments, probably the most that Clement has made so far. Look, I think he is an honest manager in the media, Derek. I don't think he's someone who scripts his lines that much or plays to the galleries, but he also knows what he's doing. He knows how these comments will come across, and I'm sure he, in a sense, is trying to apply a bit of pressure and saying that, look, I've been here for this amount of time. I've worked under really difficult circumstances. Yes, he has a responsibility to that, of course, with the team he puts out in the pitch. But we know about the team last season and the fact that he inherited a very unbalanced team and also had all these injury issues to sort. And he's only got 5 players in, most of which are these young players that he's referenced in that interview. And these huge games are coming up in a matter of weeks. And that selling before you can buy, we know that if Lammers and Dessers were to go, that would give you a fair amount of money, but still not seismic amounts. And that is what I think will concern people and what will continue to be the focus until more players do arrive. Because what is important is that I think Clement and Kopp and others, what Rangers are doing now with the likes of Diomande and Cortez, players we go back to, I think that is the right policy. It just takes time to get it right. If you consider that with his comments about Hamza Igamani and others, Chefty, other players that are going to take time to get up to speed there at Clinton and Ciala. The difficulty, obviously, as you know, at Rangers is you can't go through in August where it's about players feeling things out and getting used to the season. You've got to win right away. So probably puts the reality of the summer into focus. And I think it's only going to increase the pressure on Rangers getting quality in sooner rather than later, as we all know they really need.
Yeah, I've no issue with him saying the club need to sell before they can buy now, because the squad's bloated. We need players to head out the door. What worries me is what he was told, why he was enticed to the club in the first place in October. I want to know what he was promised, and the only way we're going to find that out is with John Bennett or someone from the board coming out and telling us what the situation is. It just didn't look good to him saying that coming in October, and the sort of landscape's changed. So I can understand supporters feeling concerned about this. And I've seen a few comments over the weekend suggesting that Clement it might think enough's enough and might head off to pastures new. Now, no manager resigns in the modern day, so I don't see that happening. He did say in that little clip as well that he's sort of his heart's been taken by the club in the 7 months that he's been there. But I can understand supporters' concerns that he's been told something and then all of a sudden he's sort of been dealt a different hand now. Whether that's a stadium or whatever, who knows? But we need an explanation from the board on this.
Yeah, and it's important, again, to not be a broken record like we sometimes are, but why are Rangers in this situation? You've had 4 managers now, in 4 seasons, and you've changed from playing style to playing style to playing style to playing style. You've changed who is at the top of recruitment. You've changed who is ultimately, the one who oversees the squad. You've went time without a sporting director and then not had one for a long time, and then changed to what Niels Koppen is in the position he's in just now. When you're a club the size of Rangers, Derek, and you let, what is it, 11 players they've let go out of contract over the past two seasons, you consider the value that Kent and Morelos had at one time. Again, as Clement has continually come back to, when you don't get money in for those players, yes, it frees up wages elsewhere, but you don't really help yourself when you have when you have the wage. We know the wages that the Rangers have had, but also the wages that they've had sitting in the stands for the last couple of seasons as well in relation to injuries. I think this is just the culmination of a lot of bad decision-making, in all honesty, and ultimately not consistent decision-making, not sticking with what Clement calls there a recruitment philosophy. If you change that from transfer window to transfer window, if you don't have a set agenda, then if you don't win, if you don't, the small things don't go in your favour, like qualifying for the Champions League under Steven Gerrard, for example, and then you're not able to add quality, you change to a different managerial style, you change back, and with Beale, I think, try to claw back as well some of the remnants of what was there under Gerrard, things like offering Ryan Jack a new contract, and then never having this new vision of where exactly the club is going to go and how they're going to get themselves out of this position. Then you end up in a summer like this where, again, to reiterate, I think a lot of the profile of player that Rangers are signing looks right. A lot of young players who will ultimately hopefully go on to make them money. But the in-between of that point, as you say, moving players on, that's a difficult bit. And it ultimately culminates in people like Clement trying to pick up the pieces and make good on what is a really, really difficult summer.
Yeah, listen, the signings that he's brought in, he does have a good track record, Clement, of getting young guys in and selling them on, just flipping them in a couple of years and selling them for a bit of a profit. So that is the plan, of course, with the players that have already arrived. But the club needs guys, quality that can step into the fold straight away and play and improve that first team. There's no doubt about it. James Tavernier and Connor Goldson's futures, of course, the two of them heavily linked with moves away this summer. This is what the manager had to say on that.
Speculation in Glasgow. And I've read already a lot of things that you say totally not true, fake news, but it's part of being in Glasgow. And you cannot react to every fake news because then you'll be only busy with that and not with the things to make things better. So what I see that they brought a lot to the club last couple of years, that they did really good games with me. They had also games where it was less, like all the team. That for me they maybe played too much last season or the last couple of years also, because if you play 60 games, nobody's every time at his top shape. So they've done all of that also for the club. They've worked really hard for that. So they're not going to play 60 games the season to come now. And all the speculations around them, it's the same speculation that you can have around every player. It's the same for us. If there's somebody coming with the right amount of money, we will see, we will discuss. But you always need to see, then you need to replace also somebody, and you need enough money then to replace them to make it better. Otherwise, it's also of no use. So it's finding a balance in that way. So in that way, I think there's only one player that's irreplaceable for the moment, that I don't think a team will pay the money for sure what he's worth, and that's Jack Butland.
So there you go, Joshua. That is what he had to say on Tavernier and Goldson. Every player has a price, apart from Jack Butland. I think he priced him at, 30 to 40 million pounds. So he's pretty clear on that. He doesn't want Jack Butland to leave. Tav and Goldson will not be playing the number of games that they have played in recent years if they are staying at Rangers. What do you make of the manager's comments on that?
Yeah, I guess, again, a continuation of what we've spoken about this summer. That the dial has shifted, because can you imagine last summer how central Tav and Goldson were within Michael Beale's, I guess, Rangers team? That line would have never come out. It's different now. It feels like there's more of an eye to the future and more of a realism that they are, as Clement says, if the money were to come in for the right offer, then unlike maybe someone like Jack Butland, Rangers feel like if there is a deal that can work for both parties, there's not many players who don't fall into that bracket this summer. I thought he probably handled that as well as he could, because he can't come out and say to one extreme or the other. You obviously, when you're in a position like Rangers are in at the moment, and clubs know that they want to sell, that doesn't really strengthen their bargaining position, does it? Because if you take a Lammers or even a Dessers, and clubs know that Rangers need money in or want money in to try and go and buy other players, then that maybe leads them to say, look, well, we'll pay you this just now, but might be slightly less. So it's a difficult position to be in, trying to move these players out while you're trying to still get players in. I mean, what did you think? It didn't really surprise me, that answer. I think what stood out to me is that that's maybe the second or third time we've effectively heard Clement say publicly that Jack Butland is not for sale, and that almost seems to be one of his. We're speaking about how the circumstances have changed, Derek, in terms of when he took the job compared to now, and it feels like the not selling Jack Butland is one of the things where he's saying, okay, well, I'll adapt to this, and this isn't ideal, but you better not lose me my goalkeeper because he needs to be here next season.
Yeah, he's sort of backing himself in the corner a little bit, because if a big money move comes, I mean, he said, let's say they're 30 to 40 million. I think if an offer came in of what, I don't know, what, 20 million for Jack Butland, I think Rangers would have to take that. I don't think. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, of course, because I mean, I think in an ideal world, Butland has another really good season, he fell off a little bit towards the end of last season, and that's something that wasn't really covered at the time because he'd been so good, and he'd saved the Rangers a lot of points at different points in the season. But so I think in an ideal situation, he has another good year, and then you sell him next summer for a bit more of a profit, or still a good profit, whereby at that point, that period of time, you've got more leaders in the dressing room. I think Clement will be looking at it at the moment, and he'll be saying, where are my leaders? I really need them for August, because if he doesn't feel like he's got a ton, if he doesn't feel like he's got a ton on the pitch, then you have different types of leaders. Speaking after the game on Saturday to Chris, I think Mohamed Diomande is going to be one of Rangers, if not their most important outfielder at points in this season, because of the way that he takes responsibility and is settled so quickly in the middle of the pitch. But 20 million would be very hard to turn down, and I don't think would be turned down, especially considering Butland came up and the idea was always, look, he's going to be a really good goalkeeper. He'd long been viewed as an Alan McGregor successor, with the potential to go and make you money in the English market because he is homegrown, and everyone knew his quality. It was about trying to recover that, I guess, and show it on a bigger stage. But £20 million, I think that would be hard to turn down. But you're right. He's very much he's putting himself in a certain position in that he clearly does not want Butland to go. And
the thing is that might, I mean, as a comment coming in, that could potentially fund much of the rebuild. Butland, we discussed this a couple of months ago as well, when there was a lot of noise about Butland possibly leaving. Sort of quieting down a little bit with regards to that. I tell you what, if he keeps up his display against Ajax, then Rangers will be lucky to get 2 million for him. Never mind 20 million. Wasn't his greatest games. It's fair to say. A bit rusty. Let's hope that he puts in a more improved display, shall we say, in the games ahead. I'm sure he will. Interestingly, the manager spoke about after the game on Saturday. He was quizzed about why James Tavernier isn't playing. He says he's got small injury, nothing big. It's too much for him to train with the squad at the moment. We expect him back at the beginning of next week, the end of next week. It all depends how it evolves. Now, he was also asked about Todd Cantwell, and he said Todd is also not ready, so we'll see in the next couple of weeks. It's a small thing with him when asked if it was an injury. Should we read between the lines on this, Joshua? Why, if it is an injury, why did they not say it was an injury? He has been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. Their market opens, I believe, in a couple of days. Is our fans right to read something into the manager's comments, or maybe lack of comments on Todd Cantwell?
It was a slightly more cryptic answer than the James Tavernier one, wasn't it? We don't know. Again, Clement, like any manager, will as much as I'm saying, I think he's quite honest in the media. He'll also know what he's doing and be very, especially having been in Glasgow for a number of months, be very aware of how certain words can be picked up. So I did think it was interesting, the reply. Obviously, Cantwell hasn't been involved at all in any of the games. I actually thought, we've spoken about the number 10 position, Derek, and how there's effectively so many players in there, but not a clear definitive, that is who you think will be Clement's out and out number 10, because Cantwell had good parts of last season, and I thought at points he was adapting to what Clement's style of football, but ultimately I think the type of player he is also very different from the type of player. If Clement was to go out and sign a number 10, it would be very different because I just think little things, the fact that Cantwell's he's a patient player, he's not an out-and-out goal scorer, is he? He's someone who I think thrives when he's given a lot of maybe positional freedom and not restricted on staying higher up the pitch. I thought Lowry actually looked pretty good. I don't know how much of the game you caught on the weekend, but I thought he looked good from the bench. So it's an interesting summer for him as well, because breaking into the first team properly, and he never has. He's played minutes, but he's never been an out-and-out first team player. I think, as McCausland showed last season, Derek, it's all about timing and opportunities. And if those two line up and you've got the right attitude, then you can become a first team player. It's clearly never been about quality for Lowry, out and out quality, because of all the players who have played minutes from the academy. He clearly has the highest amount of individual quality. But I thought he was good from the bench. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that over the remainder of pre-season, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a comment came in earlier. I'll flag it up as David has kindly donated to the channel. Thank you very much, David. It sums up the feeling amongst many. He says, it's just me or anyone else feeling deflated with the club and the ball hasn't been kicked yet. Stadium, budget and recruitment. We need answers. Yeah, it's a view that was echoed by many, buddy. Thank you very much for your kind donation as well. So yeah, interesting. Just watch this space with regards to some of Big Phil's comments on, I'd imagine, Tavernier and Cantwell, amongst others. Now, let's talk about transfers, because Rangers, despite the manager saying they need to sell before they can buy, they have been linked with a couple of players over the weekend. Joshua, Brian with the point here says, any word on Jordan from Seville? This is Juan Jordan, I think, plays for Sevilla over in La Liga. Hasn't played much last season, it's fair to say. Apparently, reports in Spain suggest that Rangers were keen on a loan deal, with Sevilla paying the large chunk of his wages, which they knocked back. There are reports Rangers working on a deal for him. I think there's one or two other clubs interested in him as well. I've got to admit, Joshua, I don't know too much about him. Central midfielder. I wonder if, of course, with Kenny McLean murmuring away in the background, whether that happens or not, they're looking at different options. And perhaps Juan Jordan may be one.
Yeah, and I think the second line of reports coming out from Spain that there was some more negotiations about exactly how that pay packet might line up in terms of a potential loan deal. So one to keep an eye on, and I'm sure that there'll be more information on that in the coming days, if anything is to materialise. Also, from the friendly, obviously, at the weekend, one of Rangers' central midfielders, Nico Raskin, left on crutches, which was far from ideal. And it wasn't if people didn't watch the game and they just saw Nico Raskin as injured, then I guess the usual reaction would follow about Rangers and injuries. But this wasn't a muscle injury or something where the player pulled up after a sprint. It was just a really bad tackle for a pre-season game. So Clement said that they didn't know yet the severity of it. He was in a moon boot. I think it was his ankle that was kind of caught up in that tackle from one of from I think the Ajax goal scorer. So fingers crossed for Nico Raskin that's not too severe. And we've seen Rangers move more with the loan to buy in transfer windows. We saw them do it with Mohamed Diamandi in January. Oscar Cortez was a deal that was very much... Rangers were very much kind of publicly and privately quite happy with how that deal was structured because they believed it worked for them. So it'll be interesting to see if they do try and, while they're waiting for that money to come in, while, as Clement reiterated, they're waiting to raise funds, they do try and act in this way because, again, to keep coming back to this point, Derek, they need quality and they need it soon. And they also need a few experienced players here or there that are going to be important when the first ball of the season is kicked because of that. 9 games from August up until the first Old Firm game that are so important and will really dictate a large part of the start of the season. And getting a few experienced players in before then is so important because hypothetically, if you go into that month and then only add players at the end, as we saw last season, so much damage could be done by that stage of the season already, even if it is only a month into the campaign.
Yeah, one to keep an eye on. Reports in Spain suggest that it's one that Rangers will try and work on in getting them to the club. So, it's just it would be an interesting signing. Got loads of experience, of course, to be a top club in La Liga, even though he's not part of the manager's plans there. I think he would bring much needed experience and would add a bit of quality in the centre of that park. Interestingly, I've seen over the weekend as well, a former Rangers player, Rangers stand, I'd imagine, to bank a bit of cash from Joshua is Glenn Kamara. He's away to join the Rennes over in France after a season at Leeds United. I think they're making just under 10 million euros, I think, or 10 million pounds, something like that for him. So making a wee bit of a profit on him. I think Rangers have got a sell-on percentage on there. I'm not entirely sure how much that would be, but every penny counts.
Yeah, there definitely was a selling percentage if Leeds got promoted to the Premier League, which obviously they didn't on the final day of the season. I was surprised actually that Kamara ended up going to. I thought he might stay to again have another crack at playing in the Premier League, but I guess he's going to play at one of the top 5 leagues. Not a player who was necessarily suited to a quicker style of play, but Rangers could do with another technical midfielder like him at the moment, to be honest, couldn't they? So sure, he'll go and do well. That's a league that will probably suit him quite well, and yeah, interested to see how he gets on.
Yep, another player that Rangers have been linked over the weekend is Young Boys player TK Niasse. I think that's how you pronounce it, his name. Another midfielder, defensive midfielder, 24 years of age, Senegal born, and he's played for Young Boys for the last couple of seasons, formerly in France as well. A towering big guy, 6'2". So another sort of that number 6, you'd imagine that Rangers are looking to bring in. I think it's a key area. We've touched on it in a number of videos before. It is an area of the pitch Rangers are looking to strengthen in. And he's been a player that has been linked to the club to add to the many others that Rangers have apparently shown an interest in. So one that we'll try and keep an eye on. That is the transfer news over the weekend. As I mentioned, the team flying back from their training camp in the Netherlands. We touched on it there, Joshua, the Nico Raskin image from that game in the moon boot. It never pours, it never rains, but it pours when it comes to Rangers and injuries. Now, the manager did say in his interview that there's been some personnel changes in the medical department. I do go and check out the second part of that interview, folks, with the manager. It's over on the YouTube channel just now. But doesn't look good, you've got to say, seeing that in the second game of pre-season.
Nah, it didn't. And as you say, Clement referenced changes that have been made in a variety of different departments. Obviously, the medical one has been one of the most pressing and the most focused on. The point he keeps coming back to as well, and I think we shouldn't underestimate this, is the fact that for 2 seasons now, Rangers have had, or the last 2 seasons, you had Beale coming in after Gio, and then you had Clement coming in after Beale, and that means it's 2 seasons of the fitness, the type of pre-season that players have gone through for a certain style of football has then changed quite dramatically to a different manager, and that's definitely not helped injuries. And if you speak to people close to the situation, that kind of consistency of style of play, training schedule, loads, what players are being asked to do, when that changes so regularly, it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. And Clement said that, I believe, after a game away at Hibs, where he was saying, look, I've only got 5 players that can play at a high intensity. And my football requires every 3 days. Even if you just think of the fact that Rangers didn't have wingers really at the start of the season, and then suddenly they have wingers under Clement who have to do a lot of running in the games and a lot more high intensity running over distances because of the type of football he's playing. He's spoken a lot about his pre-season trying to fix that as well, and there'll be pressure on that purely because of how bad the injury situation has been over the last few seasons. And just on the number 6 position, Derek, I think that is an area, long-term, short-term, Rangers really need to solve, because they've got players who can play there. Nico Raskin, Mohamed Diamande can kind of do everything in the midfield, although I think he'd probably be more effective as the slightly higher player in that Clement system. I think Connor Barron's looked impressive so far, but he's a player who's got a lot of energy and is going to get up and down the pitch. What Rangers have lacked for a long, long time is someone who can control games, someone who looks really natural at the base of midfield, controlling the tempo of games and trying to open up defences, but just being the midfielder that connects the play. And we'll come on to talk about this more, I think, before the start of the season. The criticism over Clement's style of play, I think, is increasing. And you've seen this with repeated managers now at Rangers, where the question is, what is the style of play?
Yep.
A lot about, there's one example, a lot of references to long balls. Why is that happening? So we've got a piece coming on that at some point, and we're going to look in a little bit more detail about exactly why that is happening. For me, a number 6 is absolutely paramount, because Clement needs the type of technical players to play through the pitch quickly, to not restrict himself to, as the comment says here, a lot of long balls, which we did see to Rangers' detriment at points last season. I think in the Dundee away, that 0-0 draw, where they just couldn't get into the final third, and it was just long ball after long ball into the final third. So that's one of these things, again, that we've not talked about that much, have we? Because there's so much off-pitch stuff to talk about, but it's equally as important, because whatever players Rangers have come the start of the season, the question is going to be, do they have a style of play that can win them a league? Do they have a style of play that can make them successful in Europe? And that's something that we're going to focus a little bit more on, hopefully, as the season creeps ever closer.
Yeah, lots of positive comments on Barron as well. Yeah, Denzel and many others. I thought Barron was our best player at the weekend. Real energy. Yeah, looking forward to seeing more of him in a Rangers jersey. We'll wrap up with this nice comment from Robert. He says, "Morning, Derek. Unfortunately, on the way back from Tenerife today, that was jumping last night. A big shout to the Rangers review. Made my holiday better with all the content and news releases. Great podcast. Thanks, guys." Well, thank you very much for your kind words, Robert, and safe journey back to Blighty. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Joshua and each and every one of you for tuning into the show this morning. Those of you that are Rangers Review Extra members, I think we'll do a Q&A this afternoon at some point. So I'll fire out the link in the community page. Get your questions in and we'll get through as many as we possibly can. Right, go and check out, incidentally, on the website, there's also an interview Chris has done with Ben Davis. And of course, there is Philip Clement on the James Tavernier, Connor Goldson futures and the need to sell before Rangers can buy. So do go and check it out, folks. Right, we'll speak to you again tomorrow. Unless I speak to you later on. Bye for now.